Hello and welcome back to WMMA Mania. It is episode number 2. I am your host, Drake Riggs, bringing you all the needs you could ever ask for in the world of mixed martial arts, and specifically here on this show regarding to the women. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you are on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Appreciate it greatly. If you are on Twitter, of course, cannot see your comments. So if you want to interact in the live chat, go to either Facebook or YouTube. Really appreciate it. MMA Mania, where you can get all your MMA needs. So today we have quite an interesting episode. A lot to talk about. Big drama show before the coming week and with the coming week, obviously, as we'll be recapping Bellator 275, which took place in Dublin on Friday. And there's UFC Vegas 49, which took place the day after. And some news, of course. And then UFC 272 is this weekend. Bad blood brewing in multiple fights this weekend. So not just that highly anticipated main event in the welterweight division between Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington. But as you can see there with Marina in the corner, might have a little bit of some volatility to her matchup, which we will get into when the time arises. But anyway, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Let us see what we got here. Scott was early today. Good to see you, Sir James. Nice to see you. Rain. Speaking about the Jiyeon Kim of losing on a whim. Big Rig is back, people. There you go. Jimmy's a Drake's man. Thank you, sir. Alvin is here. Hello, Mr. Riggs. In the chat, I hope all of you are having a wonderful week and enjoyed the incredible weekend of fights we just had. Incredible fighters fighting and putting it on the line. Amazing, this guy. Good to see you as well, Jin, Centro, Rue, Team Magnum, and the Pancana Alliance in the house. There you go. Ghost. Mr. Chuck Stevens himself, Stevenson, whatever the last name is, WMAC now. Apologies, Chuck. Thanks for seeing you. Thanks for tuning in. Makoto is here. Hi, Drake. It is good to see you again. I came back to say hi and chat again with you since I was inspired to see Alvin's positivity on both SCMP and MMA Mania. Alvin is the king of positivity. Thank you so much. Great to see you again, man. Yeah, trying to always keep things as positive as we can, but still being real about the world of MMA as we discuss it anyway. So yes, good to see you and happy to have you, Makoto. Thank you for tuning in. All right, you guys, let's get into things with all the nonsense, craziness that happened this past weekend, starting off with Bellator 275, which you guys tell me how many of you watched this, but I think it was worth a watch because very interesting things happening at featherweight as Sinead Kavanaugh ends up defeating Leah Mccord to be a unanimous decision, 229-28, a 30-27. All on one leg. She did this all on one leg. Still have yet to hear what the exact issue with Sinead's left knee was, but it looked like she came into the fight with an issue, unless something was definitely wrong very early on in this fight. And didn't matter, though, because she ended up getting the win over what we would have assumed would be the superior grappler. But she had some pretty good moments on the ground. And I mean, that's practically where she won the fight. Not too much happened on the feet aside from her stumbling around at times and Mccord leg kicking her, but not really pursuing it. So this was one of two cases, which we'll get into later, one of two cases where bad fight IQ, unfortunately shined the brightest here, or had the proverbial negative spotlight on it, I guess you could say, because this was just some boneheaded decisions made by Leah Mccord, who was obviously facing a compromised Sinead Kavanaugh. Could have noticed it sooner. It seemed like she was going to exploit the issue in that third round, but she did not. Ended up clinching, and as you can see there, getting pounded on a little bit, which is just absurd. Because again, one-legged opponent, one-legged Sinead Kavanaugh, who still ended up pulling this off. And I will tell you, though, I am absolutely blown away by how Sinead did not rip her arm off in that first round with the Kimura that she had locked in. I don't want to say embarrassing, but like I don't know if there's a great excuse for her not finishing that. Like she should have had a fantastic submission in that first round and would have saved her a lot of pain too, but she did not end up pulling that off and ended up going the distance and winning all 3 rounds, at least on one judge's scorecards. And I think I would probably agree with that. But either way, she definitely won. And then it leads to the absurdities of what happened directly after the fight, which was Bellator apparently wanting to give her a title shot rematch with Chris Cyborg, a fight that we saw about 3 months ago, and she got knocked out in less than 2 minutes. That just doesn't work. You can't do that. You cannot do that, Bellator. No one seems to agree with that. I'm sure that Sinead probably isn't even she'd be the only one. But even then, I bet that isn't even going to happen anytime soon if that is what they want to do, because of the fact that her knee is not really working, obviously. So she's going to need some time to heal. Could be an ACL. Who knows what's wrong with that thing? But she was throwing punches and then would fall down in the second round. So I don't understand that. And I wish that the media right after in the post-fight stuff would have really kind of pressed Coker a bit harder about that, but they didn't really at all. So that was very disappointing to see, because that's just absolutely ridiculous. And we know that Leah Mccord very likely would have got the title shot if she won, and I guess that kind of proves it. Would have been a fresh challenger, you name it, but you can't do the Kavanaugh rematch at right now. Absolutely ridiculous. And they were talking about doing the Blanco one because Kat Zingano is fighting Pam Sorensen. That's still a little early, but it would have been better, I think, than Kavanaugh here. But I don't know. It's man, just ridiculous. Just some ridiculousness. So Jin says Alvin is moving mountains with his positive vibes. Very true. James did not catch it. Jimmy didn't either. Scott says never miss. We try. Uh, Jin says Bellator's on. I didn't even know, though. Still previewed this last week. Yes, I did. Centro says he saw it and it was quite dull. It was frustrating, as was another fight we'll talk about, which the same issues with Fight IQ presented. Yeah. And as Ghost says, she didn't step over with the Kimura. That's why. Even then, man, I feel like she didn't need to. Like, she had that so locked on. If she just would have cranked as hard as she could, I still think she could have got it. But yeah, maybe the leg would have been a reason for that. I don't remember exactly which, angle she was at with her legs there in that moment, but should have had that. I don't think there's much of an excuse there. Scott says, love Bellator, but sometimes I just don't get it. Obviously. Very obviously. Chuck says Leah posted on her IG stories, her shoulder is all bruised up. I would imagine. That was just that was gnarly for her to actually get through that. Drew says Cyborg beating another can, a person who just injured her knee. Typical Bellator. Well, I don't know about the can part, who you're referring to there, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, Jimmy's right. What's new? Bellator is known for this type of matchmaking, especially recently, especially last year, and maybe a little bit before that. But this is just this. Like, if this does happen, if Kavanaugh Cyborg 2 happens, it very well. I don't know. I don't want to say the most. I don't want to put it at number one without kind of looking through history, but off the top of my head, it would be one of the worst. It's not an instant rematch because Kavanaugh had this fight, right? But like one of the worst granted title shots in like this short span. You know what I mean? I want to say an instant rematch. It is for Cyborg, but like this is just it's not. You can't do it. Just not great. Just not great. And as Joseph chimes in and says, Cyborg has no one to fight. That is also true. Aside from Kat Zingano, who there's all these issues with at the moment, Cyborg has already effectively pretty much cleaned out the division. So it's Still, I mean, I would prefer them to give even someone who she hasn't fought before, even if they don't quite deserve it, which they probably wouldn't anyways. Give her somebody fresh. I don't know. Do Bellator, just do everything you can to bring in Kayla Harrison, please, please. Even if it's not going to last very long. You should still do that. That's the fight that we kind of need to see, I think, for probably both at this point. So, all right. Well, that was the co-main event of Bellator, but before then, we had a little upset. Stephanie Page finished the former Danny McCormick, in less than 2 minutes. My goodness. If you guys were here last week, then you definitely know that I did not expect this to happen. Stephanie Page playing big time upset. Kind of just rolled through her. Not a lot to say about this. It was impressive, impressive and surprising from Stephanie Page, giving Danny McCormick her first career loss. Made Conor McGregor sad, who was there in attendance, of course, supporting the fellow people of Ireland, as he does in Dublin, all that kind of thing. But yeah, good win for Stephanie Page. I don't know if she goes too far after this, but quite an upset. Didn't see that coming. So yeah, I guess that's all there is to that one. And James, I see your concerns here, but if we're all going to play along, then we should all get along. So haven't appointed any moderators yet, but I'm hoping not to need them. You guys do not make me have to do extra work here while I'm trying to run a show all by myself. So please get along in the chat. No excuses. As Joseph is not interested in 125 though in Bellator. I don't know why you wouldn't be. It's their best division, obviously. In comparison, yes, they have two, but it is. I think that the 125 division is quite fun in Bellator, and they have some of the best in the world. So, obviously, these are two up and comers more so than the elites or anything. But yeah. All right, so that was Bellator 275. Let's move on to UFC Vegas 49, which has all the controversies, I guess, or all the intrigue of sorts. So, yeah. And don't even start, Joseph. Just leave it alone, okay? Don't go there. As we get into UFC Vegas 49, starting off with the flyweights. Priscilla Cachoeira defeated Ji Yeon Kim via unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. So this was obviously one of the hotter topics or results to come out of the event. Many a thought on this, and as you can see by the stats, what happened? I accidentally separated my tabs there. I don't know how that worked. We have pretty big striking difference here in terms of what was landed from Ji Yeon Kim. Is now on a 3-fight losing streak. You name it. This was a robbery, as many have claimed, as James is claiming right here. Jimmy says he had it all rounds for Kim. I personally had it 29-28 Kim. I gave her the first round and the third round. As you can see, she did outstrike her in every round, and 85-52 in that one. So this was a very interesting fight. And as I mentioned and alluded to earlier, this is one of the most frustrating fights I've seen in quite a while to watch. It was fun from a sloppy brawling perspective. Obviously, that's what you're going to get with Priscilla Cachoeira. But Ji Yeon Kim's fight IQ is pretty abysmal, unfortunately, as she's shown kind of time and time again. But in this one in particular, talk about it every time with Priscilla Cachoeira. We know how to beat her. Take her down. Go for a takedown, and you probably have the fight won because her takedown defense is not really a thing. And what do you know? She was the one who ended up getting a takedown in this fight at the end of the first round, as you see right there. Ji Yeon Kim did not even bother. Didn't even bother. And still, arguably, probably should have ended up winning and beating Priscilla at her own game. Oh man, just from like a strategic standpoint, it was just driving me crazy. Is like, you know how to win. We all know how you can win this fight right now. So it's like she beat herself, in my opinion. But I still don't know if I'd call it a robbery. I think that she should have won for sure. Stats obviously support that, but I feel like the stats don't tell the whole story as well because, you can land as much as you want and not do damage. Not saying that's the case. She very clearly did damage, but I think that Cachoeira definitely had a lot of impact on most of what she landed. And yes, she did miss a lot. 102 of 218 there, and just overall volume from Kim was much more. But yeah, I think it was relatively close enough to not be a robbery. I know a lot of people agree with that. And when you see the numbers like this, it's hard to say, it's hard to be like, well, come on, look at the numbers. But again, in a sport like MMA, I think that you can't always specifically look just at the numbers because it is about immediate damage and whatnot. And interestingly enough, with that third round in particular, which I don't, the judges' scores are not on here, not round by round, as you can see there. Adelaide Burton, Sal D'Amato, Mike Bell. In that third round, when she was incredibly aggressive, Priscilla just kind of going for it. Yeah, landed some good elbows and whatnot towards the end, cut Kim open. But you got to remember what happened in the first half of the round. Like, Kim got wobbled a little bit there. So it was not Kim, excuse me. She wobbled Cachoeira. Like, damage was there. I don't know. Just frustrating. That's my best way to describe this fight. Was frustrating to watch. Fun, but frustrating if you're just thinking about what somebody should have done or that kind of thing. So Ji-Yeon Kim, though, not the quickest fighter, as Ghost will say, but she bites down on it, waits for her shots, and takes them. He says, still have Kim's style. She's so slow, but sets up her foot position. This was bad from a strategic standpoint, but hilarious at the same time. Well, there you go. Zerain says Kim should have won. This wasn't even close. What were the judges doing here? Well, there you go. Rue agrees. Jin says Kim is the real winner. Do you think this was worse than Del Boni versus Zapatella? No, I do not. As I already mentioned, I'll have to watch it again, but I don't feel like it was that much of a robbery. I mean, again, Kim should have won, but I don't know. I definitely don't think it was the worst. As Go says, 1 and 2 was pretty clear. Kim had established her jab and building on it with an uppercut and straight right. That is true. Had those uppercuts slipping in there. Alan says, most people who gave it to 29-28 to Cachoeira did give her a third round. I think you're the only one who did not. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some 30-27s for Kim, so I'm not the only one, but I know that is a rare thought. But her ultra aggression was not, I don't think, didn't lead to her landing as much as some people may have thought, I guess. Obviously, again, landed with the elbows and got a cut there. But if you look at like the first half of that round, she got hurt pretty good there in the beginning. Either way, it is what it is, I guess, as people feel pretty good about the first two. So, but we're also not the judges, and it's just a bummer that there's zero accountability for these people. They get to not explain themselves, right? So James says Priscilla is one of a kind. She found a way to be severely outstruck and still won. Yeah, you don't see that very often. The old Diego Sanchez method, I suppose. And okay, Joseph, I'm going to give you a warning here. You're just kind of throwing in negativity with these who cares comments. All right. Don't need any of that. So there's your warning. All right. You don't have nothing nice to say. Don't say anything at all. We're going to go by that method here. Don't have time for it. As we move on to the other fight, which also a little bit frustrating, as I'm sure some of you will agree, as Josiane Nunes defeated Ramona Pascual via unanimous decision 30-27s, 2 of them, and then a 30-26, which was a 10-8 for that second round, for sure, which I also scored for. So Ramona, the long-awaited UFC debut, fortunately did not go her way. Short notice. Still, I thought did pretty all right, at least in that first round. I think there was an argument to be made for her winning that first round, but alas, not quite enough. Obviously on the judges' scorecards and everybody's scorecards for the most part. And then in the second round, somehow just survived a brief mauling there. I'm pretty impressed that Ramona was able to, not get finished in that second round because she got thumped on and her eye was pretty nasty after the fight. She'll be back. Nunes continues her winning ways, and everyone's talking about 8-fight winning streak, yada, yada. Listen, I love me a good winning streak, but 2 of those fights were in the UFC. The others on the Brazilian regional scene. We know that she's very powerful, very aggressive, decent-ish on the ground so far. Still got taken down by Ramona, but I mean defensively, and was threatening a little bit with some submissions there, but it is far too soon to get super hyped on her, I think. Yeah, fun to watch from that powerful Andrade light type of perspective, as I've been mentioning about her. But it's always so funny when you have somebody of this kind of stature and frame, and they're fighting at this weight, because Josiane Nunes, with some serious discipline, could at least make flyweight, and who knows, maybe even strawweight. But we'll see how that goes. And as for Ramona, she'll be back again. Was mixing things up a whole lot better than Nunes, I think. And in that first round, particularly with, her knees, really landed plenty of those. And at a point looked like it hurt Nunes a little bit, at least got her backing off. Head movement was a little suspect, but hey, not one to judge too much. As Ghost says, he hates when stupidity, brute force, and toughness beats tactics and strategy. Well, can happen sometimes. Salvin says, what a fantastic fight. So much heart between 2 competitors. Bravo, as he's mentioning that towards the Kim and Cachoeira fight. As Ghost says, but unfortunately, especially with the women, power can get you far. Still believe Ramona can come back. Yeah, and at 135, I'm looking forward to seeing her back down there where she's been wanting to get back to for a while. Just hasn't quite had the chance, I suppose. And, on a platform like the UFC, will be just fine for her. So she'll be back. Tough night for Syndicate, though, obviously. So we'll see what is next. And what is next for Nunes? Curious to see. Seen mentions of Raging Panda. I mean, that would be absolutely chaos. But they were trying to match Avila with Raquel Pennington. So that would actually be a step backwards for her. Not so sure that happens. But I wouldn't hate it. Wouldn't hate it. You guys know I love me some Raging Panda, so I'm not going to say no to that. All right. Timeout for you, sir. There's one. Sorry, guys. Just can't resist, I guess. As we move on to the news of the week, it's time to talk about some sudden change-ups, and we will get to one that was supposed to happen on 272. Very much a bummer, I know, as Scott mentioned earlier on. But in the news cycle today, it's really kind of the flyweight show. If you look at it, a lot of flyweight things happening lately. So, unfortunately, Ariane Lipski is out of her bout with JJ Aldrich, and in comes Jillian Robertson to save the day. On March 12th, UFC Vegas 50, which is next week. So this is should be I mean, it was hard to tell with Lipsky and Aldrich kind of what we would get out of that in terms of it being competitive because we know, again, kind of similar to Cashware, we know what Lipsky's weakness is. And for Jillian Robertson, somebody who is much more of a grappler, and then I think Aldrich definitely leans on her grinding style a little bit. This could make for an interesting ground battle, as it surely will go there. But it's fine. It's short notice fight. Not going to be mad at it. Good for Jillian stepping up, who's a more notable name, I guess. And if you were to put him on the ladder, she's probably higher up on the ladder. So risking it a little bit. Sucks for Lipsky, but hey, is what it is. Alvin says, great win for Nunes, but hoping Pascal will get better from this. She's got such an amazing story. Yes, surely will. Excuse me. Scott says, this should be a good scrap. Yeah, I think stylistically, probably going to be more fun. At least has the potential to be more fun than the Lipsky one, unfortunately, again, because of the styles for Lipsky. But I always love some Violence Queen and seeing her do her thing out there if she's able to, which unfortunately, again, has been rare to see in the UFC. But not mad at it. Short notice fight. What you going to do is how it is. So, all right. Then we have not a release, but a free agency, as I'm sure you guys may have saw. But at bantamweight, Alexis Davis, one of the biggest OGs on the roster right now, or at least was, is now a free agent after fighting out her contract and getting back on track a little bit, a little nicely there with the Sabina Mazo win, and then beating Stoliarenko. So, I mean, it's potentially sad because Alexis Davis should still be on the roster. I think that's very obvious. But outside of the UFC at bantamweight, there's not a lot of options for anybody, really. Invicta, I guess, but even then, still pretty thin these days. And for someone like Alexis Davis at this current stage and on a winning streak, all that to go to Invicta, not back to Invicta. I don't think she ever fought there before because she came from Strikeforce, but it just leaves her to maybe end up retiring unless they can work something out, which is still definitely possible. So it'll be interesting to watch how that plays out. Somebody like Alexis Davis, I think, is important to have in your division, especially one like bantamweight, which can always use as much experience and whatnot in it. But oh my. All right, guys, let's not get carried away here in the comments. I see what's going on. But yeah, Alexis Davis, truly a pioneer of the bantamweight division. Been around forever. As I mentioned, Strikeforce, fought for the title. So we'll see what's next for her. One of Canada's finest. And it's funny how people assume too that oh, she got cut, or oh, UFC doesn't want her anymore. Not necessarily the case. You know, it's just they're in between contracts, you name it. It's kind of like Randa Marcos, who I still wouldn't be surprised if she comes back. You know, went into free agency off of a win over Olivia Souza. Pretty solid performance. Now a free agent. Could still come back. Very possible she could still come back. And coincidentally, both Canadians. So, oh my goodness. And as for Nunes, Chuck says Nunes' speed is a difference maker in bantamweight. Yeah, pretty quick. Pretty quick she is. So we'll see how far she can go. We will see. But before that, another changeup at flyweight, as Mandy Bohm is now out. And speaking of Sabina Mazo, for her fight with Sabina Mazo. And in comes Fear the Maverick, Miranda Maverick, also next week. So 2 flyweight change-ups on the same card. My goodness. My goodness. Appreciate it. James. I don't want a mob here to start, you guys, all right? I don't want any ganging up going on. All right. I get where you're coming from, but I do not want to create some kind of don't want any of that going on. Okay. So please rein it in. I understand the passion, but yeah. As Scott says, big fight for both. We win needed for Maverick for sure. Yes, definitely. Yeah, this is actually it makes it a lot more. I don't know. I mean, Mandy Bohm, yeah, didn't need a win as badly as either of these two will going against each other. So I think that is fair to say, Scott, because what that'd be technically 3 losses in a row for Maverick. And what would it be? 3 for Sabina too? I don't even remember. I know obviously she lost the Davis one then before the Agapo. So it would be, right? It'd be 3 for each of them. So this is definitely a very important fight. Stylistically, I think that this definitely favors Maverick. A week away, we'll talk more about it next week, as we will with the other fight, I suppose. But again, short notice, coming in for an injured party. It's an important one for each lady. So don't hate it. Don't hate it. And smart move, I think, by Maverick. And yes, Rain, you are right about that. As Go says, Maverick's lack of distance control should be very funny. Against somebody like Sabina, that wouldn't be great, even though I'm still not so sure. I said at least Sabina has some cool kicks. Okay. Well, that is the news cycle for the week. Not a whole lot. A lot of flyweight stuff, as mentioned, whether it was from the fights last week or the new cycle, but we do have more flyweight action coming up. But before that, we do have some fights on Friday. Fights to watch for. Not a preview necessarily because everyone is still rather young, but why don't you check out the PFL Challenger Series 3, which is on Friday, as I mentioned, featuring the lightweights, which could be very interesting in the long term because of what happens with Kayla Harrison. But ultimately, this is I mean, everybody's just still so green, you know. And this graphic is actually not up to date, as we have Martina Jindrova versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti, Jackie Cataline versus Evelyn Martins, who has been a recipient of a Phantom Punch breakdown, Julia Dorney, Jeslyn Michelle, Michelle Montague, Olivia Parker. As you can see, 3 debutantes at this event. It is the Challenger Series for a reason, but presumably the winners or the most impressive ones at least will get into the actual tournament. And I can already promise you that if Jindrova wins, she will be in the tournament. Likely Parker as well. Probably Evelyn too. But yeah, so that's going down. Just a 4-fight card on PFL. Let's see how long they can stretch it out, right? Let's see how long it takes to get through 4 fights because their pacing is not great, as we know. And I did miss the first 2 cards. Saw the eyeball incident from this past Friday, which was just lovely stuff. I hate eye things, so that was very brutal. But yeah, so this is going down on Friday as well. As I give you a shameless plug here, I actually spoke to Evelyn Martins, and we'll be releasing that interview right after this on the channel here. So you can check that out, and plan to speak with a couple others here on this card before it goes down. So check that out. Evelyn Martin's only 19, and yeah, pretty fun personality. Still very young. Trains at ATT. Check it out. You know the drill. But yeah, PFL Challenger Series 3. The lightweights, as Evelyn has been a bantamweight primarily. Citrus says probably since both think that brawling is technical. Not sure what that is referencing. Alan says another week of fights. Looking forward to it. Wishing all participants well. There we go. James says Martin's a fan of punch participant. Hopefully the curse isn't real. I mean, let's see what Ramona was the last one, wasn't she? I'd have to go look back at all of them, but yeah, I think Evelyn should be fine in this one. Again, taking on a debutante who's a wrestler. We'll see. As Jen says, hey, Martins has a nice foot sweep along the fence, right? That is true. That is very true. And Cintra says, I hope she wins, so the curse isn't real. My goodness. What has become of the Phantom Punch breakdown? A curse, apparently. I'll have to go check it out after this. But yeah, so that's going down. Should be nice and quick, PFL. This does not need to be a 3 or 4 hour event when there's only 4 fights. Right? Don't do that to us. But what will be at least 4 hours will be UFC 272 going down the day after. Just 2 fights from the women and 2 very, very interesting ones. As we'll start off with, I mentioned the big drama show, the bad blood, the rivalry that is not just Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal in the main event. But before then, also at ATT, I'm just now realizing for some reason it's because there's so many people at ATT that they just can't all get along, obviously. As Marina Moroz returns to take on who she calls a junkie, Maria Agapova. They're not big fans of one another, if you can believe that. So this fight was just way too obvious to make ever since Marina made these claims. Was it last summer, I believe? And Agapova's continued to impress. Of course, almost knocked out Mazo and then finished her with the choke. Kind of how most of her finishes come. She did leave the gym at a point, went to MMA Masters, along with Colby. Why are they all connected? Why are they all connected? But now she's back, and I'm not sure if they are actually both training at ATT right now. I know that Agapova is, but I don't know if Moroz is. They might be, and they're just avoiding each other. I can't imagine that being the case with the kind of things that they have said about each other. And if they were to see each other, I just don't think it'd be good. And this will probably be the most interesting stare down of the weekend, aside from probably the main event. But yeah, this is should be very interesting. It's a fantastic fight. And wow, I'm very surprised to see this. I'm very, very surprised to see Marina Moroz is that's a pretty solid favorite, minus 215 after kind of the layoff that she's had. Almost 2 years since that Maribuena Silva fight, which was on the last, I think the last card with people, or was that the Brazil one where they didn't have fans? You know, one of those right before the pandemic started, which, my goodness, it's been that long. Yeah, very fun fight. Marina Moroz, since going up to flyweight, looked awesome, like a new version of herself. Just has not been very active, obviously, since then. Great performance against Mazo herself, nearly 3 years ago now, right? But Marina Moroz has looked fantastic at flyweight. If she can carry that over, this fight's going to be absolutely insane. Maria Agapova turned a brand new leaf herself as well in that last performance after just kind of literally choking it away against Dobson in the big, huge upset. But Yeah, in this one, I think that we have seen Ria Agapova has some serious finishing ability, and so does Marina Moroz, but it's kind of that killer instinct difference, which very few kind of have. And specifically with their styles, the way that Agapova really was a lot more calculated and patient with her approach, and that Sabina Mazo fight was huge for her skill set, and being able to not get carried away and end up draining herself to the point that, if she doesn't get the finish, then she's getting finished, because that is exactly what happened with Shanna Dobson. So, and against someone like Moroz, that could happen if she was to fight that same way. But, and I mean, especially in a fight like this where there's a lot of bad blood. But again, as we have seen, unfortunately, throughout history, sometimes when the fighters hate each other a lot, they can be too cautious because they really don't want to mess up, which possible in this one, just if we're going to be realistic, but don't know. Don't know. I think stylistically it should deliver the way that it should. Again, Moroz has not fought in a while, so all these that considered makes the favorite there kind of surprising. I don't get that. I really would have thought that Maria would have been the favorite, even though I think it's fair. I would probably lean towards Moroz, but that's yeah, that caught me off guard big time. Da, da, da. Oh my goodness. James says Marina versus Javnon should be funny. Who gets taken down when the other touches the leg? That is not an accurate assessment, James. That is not accurate. As Rain says, is this one a low-key banger? Absolutely. Again, like I said, we'll just see if they end up being too cautious because of their hatred. Or a clanger, he says. A fight that does not live up to the hype. Is that a word for that? I haven't heard that one before. But yeah, I mean, obviously it'll be either one of those, but on paper, this should be fantastic. It really should be. And Scott says, no fans, Levers Oliveira card. All right. I thought it was something like that. Yeah. Mary is here. Good to see you again, Mary. She says, hi, Drake. Did you already talk about Ramona Pascual? I actually found out about her English name last week. I always knew her by Huang Dajing. You can roast me if you want if I pronounce that wrong. But yes, I found out about that name last week as well. But yes, already spoke about her off the top, Mary. So sorry, a little bit late there. It was a bummer to see for Ramona indeed, but she'll be back. She'll be back. As James says, the important question is, does either have an inside low kick? Again, it's been a while, but from what I remember, I remember Marina Moroz throwing some leg kicks. I don't remember if they were two of the inside variety, but it's been a while. We'll see what she can show us. Jimmy says, will they promote the bad blood on the UFC programming and promote it correctly? Not a chance. Not a chance. This is a prelim fight, Jimmy. That is not happening. I'm sure Anik will mention stuff. So if that's what you mean, then yeah, that'll probably happen. But no way it's getting promoted because they don't care. Well, I mean, as James says, how is that not accurate? Both are not good at wrestling, or is it just going to be a striking battle? We'll get to that momentarily. We'll get to that momentarily. But yeah, Moroz Agapova should be fun, should deliver. Still crazy to think Maria is just 24 years old and then already one fight away from being a same amount of experience as Moroz. 13 fights to 12 fights. But obviously more years put in from Marina. I'll always remember that upset that she had over JoJo in her debut with the armbar right in front of Joanna. And everyone was like, all right, JoJo wins. She gets the title shot. Just was never able to make it happen. So As often says, that is unfortunate that there is bad blood. Wishing both the best. Yeah. Yeah. It is sad, huh? Why can't they just get along? It's very interesting, though, when you really dissect and listen to each of their sides of the story. Um, their stories, I guess, and who's kind of in the right and the wrong. I don't know. I can see arguments for both, but big drama show. Big drama show. Let's just hope it carries over into the cage and we get some good action. But yeah, I think that mostly this is going to depend on what Agapova we see. Because again, if she can be more calm and calculated like she was against Agapova, against Mazo, excuse me, then that's a very dangerous fighter at flyweight. And Moreau's got to see if she shakes off the cobwebs a little bit. And she hasn't been very active. So, all right. But for the fight that we are all waiting for, the people's main event, the most important fight on this entire card. I'm saying it right now. Marina Rodriguez versus Yan Xiaonan. Absolutely embarrassing. A travesty that this fight isn't on the main card. It should be the co-main event, if we're going to be completely honest. The highest ranked fighters collectively, the fight with the most on the line, winner, especially if it's Marina, title shot. Xiaonan, if she wins and then Rose wins, could be a title shot. This fight's very important. This fight's going to be very exciting. How it is on the prelims just is insane. Absolute disrespect, you name it. Marina Rodriguez, who just headlined 2 events and saved one of your cards against when she fought Michelle Watterson, like just doing her dirty. And it drives me insane. Hate to see that kind of thing, but oh well. At least the fight happening. No funny business happens leading up to this. I can't wait for it, but I can because I adore them both so much. This is super bittersweet because one has to lose. But hey, at least we get to see a fun fight go down. And the odds makers being completely disrespectful as well to Zhao Nan and living in the recent times, the recency bias going off of Zhao Nan's loss to Carlos Esparza. Surely, but it is just ludicrous to have her be such a decent sized underdog when we know for a fact that Marina Rodriguez, there's a 1% chance that she goes in there and does what Carlos Esparza did. Marina Rodriguez is not going to go in there and try to wrestle Zhao Nan and beat her up on the ground into an oblivion. Hey, maybe she could because it is MMA. Anything can happen. And she is continually working on her ground game. Defensively, I don't think we see too much offensive wrestling from Marina, aside from maybe her arguing that she took Hibas down in their fight, or initiated that sequence. Either way, Marina Rodriguez training the grappling defense much more than the offense. And Zhao Nan's working on her wrestling much more than Marina. I mean, she's working at Team Alpha Male. If anything, she'll be the one at some point to mix in wrestling. And then it gets very interesting because Marina, as we saw in her last fight, is just getting very, very tough to deal with on the ground. And I mean, at least in terms of being effective against her, I guess you could say. But these are 2 of the best strikers in the division, no doubt about it. Muay Thai versus Sanda. What is not to love about it? What is not to love? And because of that, the only reason I'm bringing up all these potential thoughts of wrestling or grappling is because of the fact that when you get those 2 fantastic strikers or two fantastic jiu-jitsu players, like let's say Dern versus Jandiroba, then they end up striking each other. And then in this case, oh, who knows? Maybe they'll end up just wrestling or something. I don't think that'll happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it was mixed in at some point, but I think that would very much more likely be from Yan Xiaonan. As we've seen from Marina Rodriguez, she does not fear being taken down. And in that last fight, particularly against Mackenzie Dern, was still throwing out her front kicks, the teeps, and whatnot, giving Dern the possibility to catch a kick, which I think Xiaonan will definitely be much more capable of doing. And I think it'll probably happen at one point. I really do, at least once. Xiaonan moves in and out very well, has some good side kicks. I think that Xiaonan probably overall mixes it up a little bit better in terms of who fights better from the distance. Hard to say. I think they're both very good at, their distance striking, but in the clinch, somewhere that Marina will probably want to get it if she can. So that would be the safest bet for where we'll get some grappling type exchanges up against the cage potentially, but I think this should mostly take place in the center. Ideally, if it plays out how it really should, just knowing how good they both are at what they do, then we will see them just go to war in the middle of the cage, which will be awesome. Will be absolutely awesome. I love this fight and I hate it at the same time. It is just something else. Ay, ay, ay. Rain says, yes, I remember Marina's last fight. She got taken down by a girl that was 1-15 in her takedowns. Should be funny. And we remember what happened to Jan trying to buggy choke Esparza. Rain, you're saying that like a bad thing, but that means she defended 14 out of 15 takedowns. I don't know what you're getting on about and how I don't understand how many people can watch, anybody, if you weren't impressed with Marina in that Dern fight, then I don't have anything to tell you. I really do not. It's you're very much devaluing, I guess, Dern, but also for sure Marina's ability to, survive the way that she did down there. 1-15 is not bad. Yes, we know that Mackenzie Dern has terrible takedowns. She doesn't have takedowns really, but to say that like that's a bad thing is silly to me. If she would have been taken down for many more of those, then sure, but that's absurd. And when Jan tried to buggy choke Esparza, I actually don't remember that. It must not have been very close, but I also don't like remembering that fight. So Chuck says, I can't complain about the fights I want to see not on pay-per-view. That is true. Third straight pay-per-view I can skip spending money on. Yeah, there's always that argument, but just in terms of like, the respect factor and all that kind of thing. And just logic, right? The most important fights should be you build up to save the best for last. That's always a line of thinking that I've had. Yet Greg Hardy gets put above this one. And that's its own thing. As Scott says, big time fight. Go says, quick breakdown. Marina's oblique kick to bottom of the shin and low kick versus Jan's 1-2 after she throws a flash kick that she never throws again. Plus sloppy grappling from both. All right. There's assessment there. Okay, Joseph. I warned you. I fucking warned you. Sorry. Don't have time for that shit. As Ghost says, Xiaonan doesn't mix it up well. Just watched all of her fights. She's pretty one note after the first round, and she doesn't catch kicks. James says, well, Brian Campbell said that Marina was a better striker than Weili by a long shot. Confirmed that he is not just intelligent by Chris Edwards Bailey, but not racist. That entire comment confuses me a little bit. Jesus, you guys are really, really throwing out the negativity at me here, and it's not pleasing me. Rain, you're saying that she was 1-15 in her last few fights. Well, yeah, okay. I was going to say I know that she tried to take Marina down a lot, but I don't think it was that many times. But yeah, no, Mackenzie is not, we know that she's not great at takedowns. Oh boy. All right, guys. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Anyway, very excited for this fight. Don't agree with the odds. All right. Well, I don't know. I guess we can leave it off there. Marina Rodriguez with a win. Get a title shot. Yeah, John, possible. All right. That's UFC 272. Should be quite a card. Lots going on. And I guess should mention it now because I actually forgot to. I didn't put it in the news. But Manofuro, Jessica I, that fight is off. So that is very unfortunate. Manofuro sounds like she already has a new fight lined up. Will not be happening at this event. Maybe next week. Maybe 273. She says it's a top contender. Don't know what happened to Jessica I. She dodged a bullet. That much is true. But yeah, we don't get to see Manofuro this week, which is a bummer. So yeah, that sucks. And I thought for a second there that she was going to get Karina Rodriguez as a replacement because Karina actually, when I commented about this and said, well, hopefully we can just see Furo fight. Karina liked that, and obviously she's in the middle of camp. She's fighting next week herself. That would have been crazy. That would have been cool, but I'm doubting that happens. And just from the way that Furo was talking, but either way, shameless plug. I did speak to Karina before her fight as well, and that interview is dropping tomorrow. MMA Mania here on the channel, on the website, you name it. She takes on Ketlin Souza next week, defends her title for the first time. Invicta FC 46 on Wednesday. So, Scott says, thanks for the heads up. Excited to see who they match with Manon next. Yes, I agree. Hopefully somebody's still decently ranked. So, all right. That about does it, you guys, as we come up to the hour mark here. For the plugs, like I said, Karina Rodriguez. I always put the H sound on it because I'm used to speaking about Marina. But as I mentioned, also Evelyn Martins will be dropping that here in a matter of moments. Also spoke to Mulan Wu Yanan last week. She is back. I think mentioned that last week. I don't know. I think we talked about it last week. Taking on Mara Bueno Silva. End up catching up with her. Was great stuff. That'll be released in the coming weeks before the fight. Train at Jackson Wink now. Planning to anyway, so that's interesting. Amanda Lemos, you name it. Lots of stuff going on. Get to go to MMA Mania for all your needs in MMA. Follow us, like, share, subscribe on all platforms. Hit that notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss a thing. Follow me at DrakeRiggs_ on Twitter and Instagram if you so fancy. Yes, Scott. Yeah, I hear you. Either way, until next week, you guys, stay safe and stay sane. Enjoy the week of fights if you can, if you possibly can. And if not, then whatever. All right. Whatever. Until then, peace out. Let's play the music. Let's play it out, shall we?